Take another photograph and document a life that's right. And ways consist of simple things, the days of black and white. And faces from a
Hello, and welcome back to Talkin Guff podcast. I don't know if I can call this a podcast because I think a podcast is a conversation between people, but maybe I could say it's a conversation between me and you. So welcome back to Talkin Guff podcast with your host, Ruben Django Pouch. I'm a bit late with this episode. I reckon it'll be about 2 weeks since the last episode by the time I edit this one, and so I apologise. I have noticed that I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think the viewership of what we're doing here has dipped a little bit in the last while, and maybe that bruised my ego a little bit. Maybe that deflated me and maybe made me go, is there any point? But fuck it, I'm going to keep on trucking. We're going to take it easy today and have a sort of non-politicised episode, potentially. Maybe, I don't know, am I capable of such a thing? But before we do, we're just going to, boom, hit you with a bit of pepper. I'm late to the game, like really late to the game, a decade late to the game, but I started watching Black Mirror. Maybe I didn't watch it for so long because I was existentially fearful of how close to the reality of our lives it would be, but it's fucking deadly, it's fucking hella entertaining. Yeah, it's an amazing production. It's really well written. Charlie Brooker must be a genius. It's well acted, well produced, production value is quite high. It's fucking amazing. Has everyone watched it? I assume they have. Like I said, I'm a decade late to the party. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. I watched the first 3 episodes, and then I watched one where like this woman had killed. Like she was getting. There was some weird, horrible scenario with this woman being chased around an empty town, all these people with their phones and all, and it gets so dark. Like you're thinking, oh, this is awful, that poor woman, and then she's like a child killer or something, and this is her punishment. She just gets like jammed into this Groundhog Day. Like it's so conflicting because you're like, oh, that poor woman, and you feel sorry for her, and then it turns out she's a fucking child killer, and you still feel a bit sorry for her in a weird way. Fucking really well done. Obviously, we touched on the war in Ukraine, and it's awful. People are literally dying over there, and in the 21st century, we think to ourselves, surely we know that we shouldn't be conducting ourselves like this. Another horrible byproduct of war is displacement. We see it all the time with war and conflict, that the people who live in those places get displaced. And I said before, and I'll say it again, what must be going on? How fucking afraid must you be? Like, how afraid would you have to be to get up in the middle of the night from your home and leave with your kids and all, with whatever you can put on your back, and go down to a fucking dinghy on Bray Beach and get in with 100 other people and hope you make it? So that is awful, no matter what. Like, but one thing I have noticed is that there seems to be a sort of contrast in that immigrant displacement when it comes to the Ukraine, the situation in the Ukraine. Like when there was Syrian and Libyan, look at that fly, that dirty fucker. There were Syrian and Libyan refugees fleeing their homeland for mainland Europe, and they were greeted with razor wire and the suggestion that maybe they put pigs' heads on stakes along the border in Hungary and other such madness. People getting, like immigrants getting the absolute shit bet out of them by police in Poland and Germany and stuff like this. And then the contrast to that is that Orban, in Hungary has opened his arms to all these white immigrants, basically white European, because these immigrants look like us. Even people in CNN said, or somewhere like that, had said things like, isn't it just awful to see these immigrants that look like us, these refugees that look like us? It's far worse somehow.
But this isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen.
And I suppose that's thrown into light some sort of weird institutional racism, effectively. Like I said, all of these countries, Poland, Hungary, they were hard line when it came to Syrian and Libyan refugees, and that's not the case now. And not to belittle the trouble, strife, etc. of the people fleeing Ukraine. It's an awful situation, but I wish we would treat everyone throughout the fucking spectrum of humanity the same way. But we don't, unfortunately. Richard Boyd Barrett actually makes a good point about it in recently, and he references Palestine. Like, we're not so outraged by the fucking brutality in Palestine. So interesting little nugget there. Another thing is that I watched someone who watches the podcast actually put me onto a thing, and I'm grateful that they did, called the Putin Interviews. And it's a series of interviews between Oliver Stone and Vladimir Putin between 2015 and 2017. You can watch all 4 parts on YouTube. In the interest of full disclosure, I've only watched one part of it, and I'm very I want to be very sure to say that it doesn't make me think that Putin's a good guy and everyone else is bad guys, but it gives a perspective that we wouldn't necessarily see in Western media. And it's really interesting. It's a the point I'm making is that I implore anyone to watch those Putin interviews with Oliver Stone, because they're very interesting and they give a broader picture. Potentially, the other side of this is, I don't know. Like, I've no doubt that Putin's a nefarious fucking gangster, but it gives another perspective to the situation, and it's very interesting. And I suggest go check it out. If you do, or you already have, let me know in the comment section below. Obviously, Putin is engaged in an attack on a sovereign nation, and that's totally unacceptable. It's deplorable. We know that. But a little bit of food for thought is that in the last 20 years, and I think it's a little bit more than 20 years, but definitely for the last 20 years, the US of A, the bastions of democracy in the world, have dropped a bomb on a sovereign nation every day for 20 years. In fact, they've dropped an average of 49 bombs a day on a sovereign nation for 20 years. And yet we're listening to these. But that's it. That's all I'm going to say. That's some food for thought. It's unacceptable that Putin has staged an invasion of the Ukraine, an invasion of a sovereign nation. Is it equally unacceptable that the US has dropped a bomb, 49 bombs on average a day on a sovereign state for 20 years? Anyway, I suppose the point, like, it's not to go, oh, that's all right what Putin's doing and this, and because they're doing this. But I think if we don't look at the full picture, if we don't get rid of war, if we don't prohibit war and the industrial military complex, we're going to be could potentially already be staring down the barrel of fucking a nuclear holocaust. This isn't like back in the First World War and the Second World War. Now motherfuckers just have bombs. We just bomb the fuck out of each other, and it won't be like this great war across the fucking continents with people, where we're throwing people at it. It'll just literally be fucking Flight of the Navigator, everyone dies, fucking nuclear bombs coming from every which way, and everyone dies. No one makes it. No one survives that shit. So that's my point. I think we should identify all nefarious warmongering pieces of shit, including Vladimir Putin, and make it unacceptable. Prohibit them from operating in such a way. Anyway, let's have a bit of crack with it, will we? I swear to God, I'll talk about it again in like a health episode that I'm thinking about doing. I am addicted to Monster. Like, I mean, full blown. Anyway, I was at a social gathering, a party, if you will, recently. And I came late to the party, and when I got there, everyone was sort of getting on it, or on it, potentially, beginning on the cusp of eating each other. I get to the party, and one of the girls whose party it was, I meet her sort of straight away. I say, hey, babe, so good to see you. Oh, I love you. Thanks for coming. So I really appreciate you coming. Thanks so much. And I was like, hey, babe, no problem. I'm so good to see you. I'm happy to be here. Oh, thanks. And then I, peruse around the party, mooch around for another few minutes, and go out for a cigarette. And I started talking to a friend of mine, about numerous things when we get onto the topic of the new Kanye West documentary. He's like, have you seen the Kanye West documentary? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, we were chatting about that. And the next thing, the girls whose party it was, the aforementioned reveler, was standing right there beside us. And my friend was like, you know, trying to be real sound. He's like, hey, new Kanye West documentary, have you seen it? And she's standing here and I'm here and he's here. And she just launches into this diatribe about how, you know, Kanye West is threatening this, like, sensitive young comedian in his newest video. He's made a video where he's, like, threatened to kill him. And you think that's all right, do you? You know, this guy has this comedian that he's terrorizing has mental health issues. This poor, sensitive young man could kill himself or something. You think that's okay, do you? And I was just like, what the actual fuck? And I just sort of said nothing, and my mate was like, no, look, it was just, have you seen it? That's all. And she's like, I wouldn't watch or support Kanye West in any way. I mean, do you not understand? He's going, that poor, sensitive young guy could kill himself. He has mental health issues. I have mental health issues. I can empathise with this young comedian. And I was a bit like, oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, oh yeah. And then she goes like, what, are you fucking stupid, are you? And I was just like, no, hold on a minute, actually, sister. And you don't talk to us like that in that derogatory fashion for absolutely nothing. We haven't done anything. You come out here, start trying to antagonise some woke bullshit argument out of us. Get a grip now. And she was like, oh, good, no, sorry. Because first of all, I was like, rewind. First of all, when she launched into this thing to try and defuse it, I was like, well, look, because I was getting ready to fucking go for her a bit as well, you know. I was like, look, forget, you know, what does it matter? The reality of it is that they're these, like, fucking millionaire entertainers living in a distorted reality so far removed from the strife and struggling of normal everyday people like us and other people across the world. Like, who actually gives a fuck? Let's not argue about it. And then that's when she was like, these are so fucking stupid. And I said, no, hold on a minute, there's no need to be fucking rude and derogatory about it. Don't come at me with that woke bullshit. And I literally just turned, chopped her out of the conversation there and started conversing again with my mate. And she was like, you fucking idiots, go right ahead and support Kanye West. And yeah, Ruben, I am woke. And I just thought to myself, the irony of that is totally lost on you because you're not woke. You're fucking asleep. You're being drip fed your fucking zeitgeist by E-News and E-Entertainment or whatever. Where are your crocodile tears, your woke crocodile tears for the fucking struggling, displaced, fucking exploited people all over the world? The people who make your mobile phone and prop up your fucking tech bullshit and all. Where's your crocodile tears for that? You want to fucking make me feel bad about watching the Kanye West documentary because he's embroiled in some beef with a 28-year-old millionaire who's fucking Kim Kardashian. I mean, pardon me if I don't give a fuck. Later on in the night, I heard that person refer to themselves as never married, never had kids, child-free by choice. It's like you're 41 years of age, locked, antagonising people at your own birthday party. Child-free by choice? Give me a fucking break. Anyway, let's have a chat about the Pete and Kanye thing. Pete Davidson, really funny stand-up comedian, came to prominence making jokes about the death of his own father during 9/11. But really funny, he is. Some of his roasts and his comebacks and all are fucking deadly. He's a big Saturday Night Live head. I'm not the biggest fan of Saturday Night Live. I don't think it's that funny. I think it's a bit fucking wooden or a bit shit. Obviously we all know Kanye West. And we'll talk a bit more about Kanye further down the line. But they're having a beef at the moment. And the reason they're having the beef is because Kanye West has been estranged from Kim Kardashian as of last February. As of last October, she started dating Pete Davidson, and they're still at it. And Kanye West is going full fucking tilt. The video to which my woke fucking friend was referring was this, and he's done two of them now. He's done a video, he did a stop frame animation where he sort of like beheads an effigy, if you will, of Pete Davidson, and there's another one where a skinless monkey beats the shit out of an effigy of Pete Davidson. And look, I'm not condoning that, but at the same time, like I said, it's just this big fucking stupid Hollywood circus that I don't really give a fuck about. It's like way down on the priority list. But I thought I'd have a look at it. I looked at loads of bullshit, like an hour straight of all of these fucking ridiculous clickbaity videos going over the beef between Kanye West and Pete Davidson, and I thought there would actually be something to it, but there's not. There's literally nothing to it. It's obviously all a load of total bullshit. Like I said, and I said to that woman, like, and when it really reaffirmed what I said to that girl when I watched these disgusting, awful programs, that it's so distorted or removed from what real life is for so many people that should we really give a fuck? I don't. Those entertainment and those sort of, I don't know what you call the genre of media, Hollywood news, they are fucking gross. And people who watch that stuff must have brain damage or something, because it's just like sitting there. And I watched about an hour of it, and there was literally about 5 minutes worth of sort of vague information that's been propped up into this fucking beef, and they just regurgitate it and respin it in different ways, but it's nothing, literally nothing. And the other side of it is they're both total soft boys. Like, Pete Davidson's obviously some big skinny soft boy who you box the absolute neck off. And Kanye West is fucking soft boy as well. He's not fucking, he's not a G. He's not a fucking gangster. So it's, when you look at it properly, it's just like, it's actually laughable. And like, I'm thinking to myself going, are you serious? In the middle of a party, you want to fucking jump in with all this bullshit when it's actually nothing. It's actually this fucking, like, depressing Hunger Games fucking media circus, like, and it's designed to make money, and you're a fucking idiot, basically. Like I said, I think Pete Davidson's doing alright for himself. 28-year-old millionaire, fucking Kim Kardashian. He's probably pretty happy with himself. And Kanye West is Kanye West. And we'll talk about that now in a second. We'll talk about the documentary that's on Netflix. It's called Genius, I'm pretty sure. It's a 3-parter. Again, full disclosure, I only watched one part. There was only one part out when I started watching it, and since then I've sort of got hooked into Black Mirror. Anyway, I will go back and watch the next 2 episodes of the Genius documentary, and we'll talk about it further. But for right now, let's talk about what I took away from that first episode. When you watch this, and like, I suppose I didn't see very much of Kanye West outside of his sort of musical persona, interview-wise, or any of that stuff, until later on, and until he sort of, and then you look at some of those, like, because obviously he has a tendency to lose himself a bit in the middle of interviews and come out with fucking, like, crazy fucking out there stuff, like, I am Shakespeare, this sort of shit. And so I wasn't focusing on any of that at the genesis or the incubation period of his career. But when you watch this documentary, it becomes pretty apparent pretty quickly that he's always been, like, and no disrespect, it's like he's been a bit on the spectrum, you know what I mean? He's always been out there, an out there character, eccentric to say the absolute very least. But the other thing you also have to say is he's a fucking master beat maker, and you forget about that through the whole media circus, that he's a fucking genius when it comes to making beats. Before he had his own album, before he was signed, he was making beats for everyone. I think he made half of the Black album. He definitely made H to the is O, B to the is A, which is a cracker. And he also made one of my all-time favourites, which is, it samples Lucifer, son of the morning, I'm gonna chase you out of earth. And he, for Jay-Z, does a fucking cracker. Down, 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 Lucifer, son of the morning. Hip-hop vibe. It's a killer. So he was also, like, there's a bit where he meets Mos Def and someone else, and I can't remember who the other lad is, and Mos Def's sort of outside the car, Kanye's in the driver's seat, and another lad's in the car, and they're just fucking vibing to this heavy hip-hop tune. And even your man's like, going, that's mine, I can take that one, can I? And he's like, yeah, that's you. So he was obviously banging out heavy beats for all top recording hip-hop artists and was very good at it. And one thing is, they don't want to sign him. He's looking to get his own deal. He wants to go to Rockefeller and get a deal. And then he goes to another lad, I can't remember. But the whole time he's trying to get a deal, And no one really wants to give him a deal. And I think the reason Rockefeller don't want to give him a deal is because they don't want him making beats for himself. They want him to make the beats for all their other stable of artists. And he's fucking amazing beat maker. So I think that's what's going on there. In fact, that's definitely going on. They're like, let's just keep stringing him along so he keep making the beats. They're taking advantage, I suppose, of the situation. Now, he's probably getting paid good money per beat, but it seems a little bit like they're stringing him along and taking advantage of his uber beat-making skills without actually signing him. But eventually they have to. They have to sign the lad, and he drops Graduation. Is that what it's called, the first ever album? I don't give a fuck what you say about Kanye West. That first album is a banger, with some cracking tunes. All Falls Down, Skill Spirit, 2 Words, Through the Wire, Jesus Walks. There's more. It's a cracker. And the second album has some fucking great tunes on it as well. So, I mean, that will always be my thing, regardless of, like, I mean, I look at Kanye West and think, oh, fucking poor idiot, God bless. In fact, you know what? I do. I feel a little bit sorry for Kanye West. And this situation, that's what's lost on this woman. Pete Davidson has mental health issues. You don't fucking think Kanye West has mental health issues. In fact, Pete Davidson was taking the piss out of Kanye West and his mental health issues years ago in a Saturday Night Live skit. Stay on the meds, that one. Make Kanye 2006 again. And so it's all fair game. You know, that's the one thing that this woke gobshite wasn't talking about. It's like, potentially Pete Davidson actually started this shit slinging thing, and you want to talk about Pete Davidson's mental health, but he has no problem lambasting Kanye and his mental health years previous, and you don't have a problem with it either. So that's obviously totally hypocritical, but Jesus Christ, that's how the woke operate, isn't it? So then he drops that banger, and it sort of changes the game, isn't it? And that's where it stops with this episode that I had seen. That was the sort of end of it. He dropped his album. It was a hit. I'm definitely going to watch more of it. I definitely think it's really interesting and worth a watch. And I definitely, in spite of the fact that he's threatening a really sensitive comedian with mental health issues who could kill himself, in spite of that fact, it's quite interesting. And like a lot of the artists, contemporary and historical, you know, we're judging the art, not the person, I like to think. And considering he hasn't done anything too fucking heinous, I think we'll leave old Kanye West on and, you know, say a little prayer for him. And as for Pete Davidson, 28-year-old millionaire fucking Kim Kardashian, his prayers have been answered. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I have a good idea for the next one, and I'm going to hopefully just go straight into it. So we won't be waiting 2 weeks for the next episode, hopefully. Big shout out to everyone who watches the podcast. If you do watch it and enjoy it, please subscribe if you haven't already. Please like a couple of videos. Please share it with some friends of yours. I would love to try and bump up the viewership a little bit. And if there's anything that I can do as you, the viewer, if you've watched the podcast consistently, is there any suggestions you would have for me to make it more entertaining or more accessible or to increase my viewership, essentially? Regardless of that, you 52 fucking tinfoil hat wearing subscribers of mine, I love you. I hope you love yourself. I'm loving myself. Mwah!
Take another photograph and document a life that's right. And ways consist of simple things, the days of black and white. And faces from a humble past at one with the ground.